get started off with our Commissioner Larry Crawford to lead us in our invocation. Commissioner Crawford.
Prayer.
Wonderful God, it's so great once again to come before you to thank you for all of the grace and the mercy and the kindness and the help that you've provided for us. And as we enter into this new year, may we dedicate ourselves to the service, to those of this county that have placed us in this position to make decisions for the betterment of our communities and our county. Never do we want to take advantage of the privilege that we have to serve. And may we do it with the open heart and do what's best for all of the citizens of our county. For that we give you thanks and pray all of this in Christ's name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Larry. Sheriff, would you lead us in the pledge? We have the flag in the middle.
Attention, salute, pledge. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Sheriff. We have all the members in the House and the Chamber. Now, roll call, Madam Clerk, if you will take the roll. Board open, please record your presence. Madam Clerk, take the roll.
23 present, 1 absent.
Thank you. Next on our agenda are guest speakers, proclamations, recognition, and presentations. At this time, though, I would like to announce on our item number 1 on the agenda for rezoning, we have had Mr. Kurt Blanken, who had item number 2 tonight, has withdrawn that application, and therefore it will not be heard tonight or any time until he refiles. So anyone who is here for that presentation from the community, that will not be heard tonight, and we didn't know if you'd want to be excused at this point, but you're welcome to, and you're welcome to stay for the rest of our meeting. Tonight, under presentations, I have a proclamation recognizing Family Court Awareness Month. And I won't read this into the record. I have given the clerk a copy of it, and we will present it to the folks at FCAMC who requested that we declare in Sullivan County Family Awareness Month by request of their committee. So, again, we won't do that. First presentation we have tonight, I'll recognize Chris Ramsey. Okay, for some reason our roll call didn't take. So we're going to do that one more time. So when the board opens, please record your attendance. And Andrew, we waited on you.
I appreciate it.
I believe it's recording it now. Is everyone checked in? Mr. Love. Okay, I believe we're all in. Madam Clerk, take the roll.
Twenty-three present, 1 absent.
Thank you. Again, the next item on the agenda are presentations, and I'd like to just want to recognize Mr. Chris Ramsey, our UT Extension agent, for introductions. So, Chris, the Floor is yours. Welcome. It's always good to see you. You do good work for Sullivan County.
Thank you, Mayor Venable. Commissioners, appreciate the opportunity to come tonight and share a little good stuff that we're implementing in the county. I've got a couple of people that are going to help me tonight. Our former Lieutenant Governor Ron Ramsey is here, and he's going to talk a little bit about the history of the Tennessee Department of Agriculture Ag Enhancement Program, how it got started in those early years. And I've got Charles Phelps, a local beef cattle producer, that's going to share a little bit about some projects that he has utilized that money to implement on his farm and what it has meant to him. And then I'm going to talk a little bit about our Master Beef Producer Program and our Beef Quality Assurance Program that makes these producers eligible to receive that grant money, and how UT Extension cooperates with Tennessee Department of Ag to make that successful. So,
Governor Ramsey, good to see you.
Good to see you. Excuse me, Mayor Venable. Excuse me, we're in a formal setting here. Known Mayor Venable for many years now.
Once a governor, always a governor.
That's right. Thank you very much. Thank you. Once a mayor, always a mayor, I suppose.
That's true.
But first of all, I just want to say thank you for having me here. I told Chris, I'm glad the very first thing he said, Tennessee Department of Agriculture. He started talking about that today. He was talking about TDA. And finally I asked him, what's TVA got to do with this? Don't speak in acronyms. I told him that, so thank goodness he said Tennessee Department of Agriculture instead of TDA. So we want to talk to you just a little bit today about the Tennessee Ag Enhancement Program. A lot of people, just out of curiosity, how many here know about Tennessee Ag? There are a few, but most of you don't. It's an unbelievably good program. Back in 2003, Ken Givens became Commissioner of Agriculture, and Mayor Bell, when I served with him many years in the state legislature, down here in Hawkins County, a great guy, still in the real estate business down there. And when he came in, he approached me because he knew how agriculture was important to me, and said he'd like to design a program for the small farmers that are here to help the small farmers here in the state of Tennessee. And so we sat down together working with Governor Bredesen, a very bipartisan way we worked through this, a very bipartisan way, and try to figure out the way to do this. And we had a few criteria that we want to make sure of. First of all, we didn't want this to be just a straight grant program to where you wrote checks to people. This is something where people had to have skin in the game. And if they were going to use this, they had to use some of their own money also. So we worked hard on this for about a year and finally designed a program. Most of you probably know that agriculture is a multi-billion-dollar industry here in the state of Tennessee. And probably 85 to 90% of those people are what you would definitely consider small farmers. There's really a lot in the pipeline to help large farmers, but it's not small farmers. So we came up with this program that isn't a straight program. First of all, on any project locally, and Chris is going to talk more about that, the local farmer puts in either 35% up to 50% of any project he may receive. And then on top of that, instead of just monetarily, they also have some time involved in this. We designed a program called the Master Beef Producers that's really about a 10-week program the way it originally started. Any local farmer has to go to every Thursday night usually to somewhere and take this class in order to be eligible for this. And what I love most about that, I saw many farmers that said, I've been farming for 30 years, I've been farming for 40 years, they're not going to teach me anything in any kind of class. And I'm sure every one person that came out of there said, I've learned a lot. And this class talked about genetics, they talked about forage, talked about marketing, how you market your cows, and in the end, it really helped people. So this, and finally, then the pandemic came along, by the way, and that's we started to do this by Zoom. But I think it actually helped things because instead of having to have the speaker standing in front of you, they were able to get nationally known speakers to come in and teach these classes to people here in the state of Tennessee. This has been very good. So it started finally in 2004. We started with $20 million. That maybe sounds like a lot of money. You all been, just like I am, have to figure all this out. We were talking about a $35 to $40 billion state budget. $20 million wasn't all that much, but at the same time, it really helped. And so we started giving out these grants. Then the Great Recession hit in 2009, and for a while, the whole program was completely cut out of the state budget. But I worked hard working with Commissioner Givens and Governor Bredesen too. I give him credit too. We had to reduce it from $20 billion down to $12 billion. down to $12 million, and just this year, finally got back up towards $20 million again, I think $21 million this year. What does this do? Believe me, I've taken advantage of today. I've got about 30 mama cows, and I worked all my calves today, and he worked it through cattle handling equipment that I helped purchase through the Ag Enhancement Program. And my vet was there today, and I knew I was going to be giving us a talk tonight, and I asked him, just out of curiosity, how many people now have really good squeeze chutes, cattle handling equipment to help you work these cattle? He said, Ron, there are now hundreds here in Sullivan County, and I would bet 20 years ago there weren't but 10 or 12. And I could about name the people that had those then. Not only does it help with the health and working of your animals, but it also is much, much, much safer when you have this. Hay barns. They'll matching grant to build hay barns. So that sounds like a lot of money for nothing. Let me assure you, if you see round bales sitting out in the field, you're going to lose about 35% of that hay if it's just sitting out there in the weather, and not even to mention the bad quality that you get when you finally start feeding in December. So hay barns, genetics, you can buy bulls, you can buy heifers, and they have to be certified through the program to help you increase the genetics in your herd. And I say this has been second to none of anything in the United States to improve the beef cattle, and dairy for that matter. Now, if it does reach into dairy, the beef cattle herd here in the state of Tennessee has been improved drastically because of this program. And it has evolved a little bit over the years. The Department of Agriculture has listened to farmers around it. In particular, when Julius Johnson was Commissioner of Agriculture, I started ragging him because I'd ride down the road and see all these pasture fields full of weeds. I said, what we need to do is be able to buy pasture spraying equipment. It's involved into that, so that now you can buy the pasture spraying equipment too. This year, for the first time, a cattle trailer is going to be involved in this too. So this is a program that any local beef producer, if they have a certain number of head of cattle, can work for this. It's not easy. You got to take this class, work your way through that, and you have to put some of your own money into it too. But a lot of people don't even know about this, and it's really, Chris is going to inform you on exactly how much this has helped the farmers here in Sullivan County. Again, I've taken advantage of it now for several years, and I plan on doing that again this year. October 1st through 7th is the application time for the Tennessee Ag Enhancement Program. You have to tell them which category you plan on purchasing something from, and they'll inform you somewhere in a month or two exactly what you've been chosen for. So Chris asked me to take part of this simply because I was involved in this literally from the very beginning. There was a time when it was just about cut out of the budget, but we got to put it back in, and it's still to this day, literally every day, helping farmers here in Sullivan County. Thank you.
Thank you, Governor Ramsey. Thank you, Governor Ramsey. Chris, you have another guest?
I do. Please introduce Charles Phelps, who lives out in Big Springs Road in the Hickory Tree community. And he's going to share a little bit about some of the things he's done on his farm that's made him more profitable, more safe, and just able to produce, more effectively.
Thank you, Chris. Again, I'm Charlie Phelps. Been a resident of Sullivan County for several years. As Chris mentioned, my farm is out in the Hickory Tree area along the Holston River. I've been involved with cattle and cattle production for basically all my life. If I told you how long I've been involved with them, you would know my age. And I enjoy it. It's a hobby. Sometimes, I'm in the red. Every once in a while in the black as far as the money is concerned. I have a herd of Angus cattle, about 50 mama cows, calves, heifers, a few bulls, and I really enjoy it. I am a participant in the Tennessee Ag Enhancement Program, as the Governor Ramsey alluded to. I started in that program in May of 2006, so I've been involved with it for several years, each and every year. I think I missed 1 year. I've had approved funding for 14 of those years. My projects included constructing hay barns, hay sheds. I bought a few bred heifers along the way and a bull or so. I bought hay equipment, rakes, tedders, hay tedders, and some feed trailers. To give you some idea of the cost of hay equipment, a hay tedder is right at $10,000, $11,000, $12,000 now. Obviously, I've got a small operation compared to several, but I'm very typical for a cattle person in Tennessee, in Sullivan County. To give you some idea of the monies that you're talking about, they approved and funded for cattle $2,800 in the course of these few years. Genetics, was able to buy some pretty good heifers, right at $6,000. Hay storage was a big item, constructing the barn, and you have to actually construct those barns according to their qualifications, their criteria. Again, I mentioned the hay equipment, another $7,000, and the the livestock equipment, which I compliment the Ag Enhancement Program because it has saved an undue amount of injuries with these squeeze chutes, alleyways, scales. Anyone that works cattle, I assure you, and I know of 3 commissioners here that work cattle annually, but I assure you they've all been injured at some point in time working cattle. So it is a safety thing. My hat's off to the state of Tennessee in securing this funding, and I know that some other adjoining states have also modeled their programs along that same line. Any questions?
Thank you, Mr. Phelps. Appreciate you being here.
Well, they've done a good job and kind of outlined a lot of the things that are involved, but I want to add a few little things. To be eligible for these funds here in the county, they have to first qualify as a beef quality assurance certified producer. And it's just a broad scope of things such as vaccinations and management practices, things that we should be doing as beef producers that they might try to skip over, if they weren't encouraged to do so. So when they say they're a BQA producer, it gives them a little bit of encouragement to produce a better quality product for the consumer. Everybody remembers back in around 2003, the mad cow disease that came in out of Canada. Man, that was a big scare if you were a beef cattle producer. It was a big blip in the market, and what they were bringing at that time, the beef producers do not want to see that again. So everybody wants to do a good job. Now that level is very easy to get. It's about an hour program. It costs them between $20 and $40, depending on if they're a member or not. The Cattlemen's Association, where that is administered through, and UT Extension just helps them accomplish that and get it out to the beef producers across Tennessee. That gives, as Lieutenant Governor Ron Ramsey said, 35% cost share. So if they spend, $2,000, then they're going to get $700 of it, I think that's right, back after they spend it. Then if they want to spend a little bit more time and come to about 10 sessions or so, it's actually 7 credits. 7 credits, then they can get 50%. So spend, I think the most they could probably get is about the hay barn, maybe $7,000. So they spend roughly $14,000. They get half of it back. Now, all these certifications are good for 3 years, and then they come back and renew it with new, different programs that's been advanced at that time. In the county, we usually certify BQA and master beef producer about 35 to 40, 45 each year, and it's a rolling cycle. we always have new people that need to renew it, and they come into our office, and we try to make it user-friendly. They can complete the whole program in a couple of days by going to Greenville, or they can come to our office for some meetings, or they can do online meetings. Something we didn't have 3 or 4 years ago, but with COVID, we are doing a lot of those online now. So we have lots of options for these people to complete this certification and get the cost share money. I'll give you one good story. There's a beef producer here in the county, Mike Cox. 20 years ago, he had Angus cattle, and he sent some to a feed yard in Iowa and retained ownership through slaughter. And he got a report back, and he had probably 60% choice, and the rest were select in terms of carcass grade. And he wasn't happy with that. So he started putting emphasis on marbling and carcass characteristics in purchasing his bulls. And when you think of the bull is the most impactful member of the herd because he contributes his genetics to all 30 to 40 cows in the herd. You know, each cow has her own genetics, but the bull contributes to all of them. And bull genetics is almost like computers. You know, if you got a computer and it's 4 years old, you can probably improve yourself by getting a new computer. Well, the bull's the same way. You don't need a bull that's 10 or 12 years old. There's better genetics that will put more pounds on your calves and give you more profit when you sell. So anyway, Mike Cox really focused on genetics in his herd, and over about 4 or 5 years, he was getting 85% choice on his report from the genetics of the bulls, that he purchased. And, as a producer that's got 25 cows, it's a hard decision to go spend $3,000, $4,000. You could probably spend $8,000 or $10,000 easily on a bull, but if they're going to give you $1,800 of it, that makes it a little bit easier. You can about sell that bull you have for $1,800. Put that with the ag enhancement $1,800, and you got you another bull. So it's really meant a lot to productivity and efficiency. And Lieutenant Governor and Charles Phelps talked about some other aspects of the program that have really benefited as well. In your hand, I gave you some handouts I brought by earlier, and the color sheet on the back, I think it listed Sullivan County, it's having 975 projects, $2.4 million over those years, present all the way back to 2005. And that actually is old information. It's closer to 2.8 million that have been paid out with this year. So instead of 2.4, it's more like 2.8. Then on the yellow sheet, also in there, kind of outlined projects, money paid, and economic impact for the last 3 years. And this year was like $331,000. And you multiply that, according to the Tennessee Department of Agriculture, $6.09 per dollar. And it's pretty good economic impact as that money turns over, here locally. So really proud of the program we're doing and what it's meant for beef cattle producers in our area, and made them more profitable. Thank you all for the opportunity to share this information. If you have any questions, also the application, we're just ahead of that opening up. If you know people in your district, it's October 1st through October 7th, and they are very specific. You have to apply during those 7 days, or else they have to wait until next year. Anyway, and now I've talked about beef cattle tonight, but it also has a program for sheep and goats, poultry, And then producer diversification, which includes bees, fruit, vegetables, agritourism, and some other aspects as well. Anybody have any questions? We'd be glad to answer them.
Mr. Crawford, I believe, Mr. Crawford recognizes.
Chris, you've got 97 different projects that application was made for in 21-22,
Yes.
and you've listed 9 areas, categories up here for selection. So out of these 97 projects, they fit within this 9
They do.
category system. Is there any particular part or one of these 9 that was more heavily used than any of the others out of the 97 projects that were applied for?
I'd say the one used most is genetics.
Genetics, okay.
People purchase bulls, heifers, artificial insemination equipment. And then behind that would probably be the livestock equipment, squeeze chutes, pasture sprayers, scales, gates, panels, things like that.
Thank you, Larry. Chris?
Yep.
I believe that's got him. We appreciate the presentation. Always glad to see you. You have good news for us.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Chris, what about the dinner?
The dinner.
Got to eat.
Yep, got to eat. 2 weeks from tonight, no, 3 weeks from tonight, October the 6th, you will be invited to a dinner at the Ag Center in our office, and we'll give you a little update about many programs that we do, everything from ag to family and consumer sciences and 4-H programs, and we'll give tours of the Ag Center, and the Cattlemen's Association is going to prepare a meal. I'm not sure what the meal will be, but it'll be good. So hope to see you on October the 6th, and you should receive a card in the mail. It's mailed out today, so hopefully at least by this time next week, you should get that card, and we'd like you to just RSVP so we know how many is going to come, and this is you and a guest. Thank you.
Mr. Glover, you're recognized.
Mr. Chairman, I appreciate that. Chris, thank you, and Governor Ramsey and Charlie and his wife Diane for being here tonight. I think what we need to look at on this, in Sullivan County, $2,472,033. That means basically that was a lot of growth to businesses in Sullivan County. A lot of that product was bought in Sullivan County. A lot of that product was, for instance, some of the hay barns, the sheds. We got metal place in Piney Flats where a lot of that comes from. So it benefits Sullivan County greatly when this program is moved forward for the farmers in Sullivan County. So I want to thank them for coming tonight and giving us this presentation. Even if you look at Washington County, which is just right over the line, $2,964,000. So that's a lot of money that's being pumped into this area from that program, and Greene County also. But it's a great program. We've built a hay barn through the program, and we've also got cattle handling equipment through the program. And when you're able to vaccinate these cattle, and you're moving your quality of beef to the next level, so it's a really good program. So, and also you have to have the cattle, at least somebody had a cattle to belong and apply for that. But you don't have to be, if you want to be a member of the Sullivan County Cattle Association, you don't have to own cattle. You don't have to own chickens. You can go ahead and apply, and we'd love to have new members come in. And I think next week you'll see what we're doing. So thank y'all.
Thank you, Commissioner. Anyone else have any comment for Chris or a question for Chris? Chris, I'll thank you again. It's always a pleasure to see you.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Next up, we have a guest with us with an invitation, I believe, Ms. Carol Keith. Ms. Keith, good to see you, and you're recognized.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. My My name is Carol Keith. I'm Alderwoman in Bluff City. And first of all, I'd like to thank Mayor Venable for the opportunity to stand before you all. If I could just give you just a little history while I'm here. We all know Mayor Wells. And one day she had called me into her office and she said, Carol, there's a project I think you would be good at. Because Mayor Wells always wanted to do something for our children. And she always wanted to have a playground. So I told her, I said, well, you know, Mayor, I said, that's a good idea, but that's your vision and that's your dream, but I'll be happy to work with you. So we worked diligently on it, but it was one delay after another, one delay after another. So of course she passed. And I talked with her husband and her children, and I promised them, I said, I will continue to press forward to get this done. And I'm thankful for our mayor and our board that has worked with us, with me, trying to bring this forward. And this is so important, and I didn't want to send you guys an email or a text. I wanted to come tonight and personally invite each and every one of you all to Wells Park, the dedication and the celebration of our playground. Thank you. And may God bless you, and may heaven smile upon you. Mayor Venable, thank you for this opportunity.
Well, thank you for sharing with us, and we look forward to being with you.
Thank you.
Thank you. We are having computer problems, and we need to shut the system down for just a few minutes. So I'll ask you to take a break around your place. I won't say in place, but we'll see how quickly Bobby can get this fixed. And he's working remotely, so we'll be back up in just a few minutes. So take a break, and I will gavel us back when we get our computer fixed. they will make a presentation when you do the resolution or now? Now?
I think we do it now.
Okay,
If that's okay.
that's fine. Commissioner Stidham has requested that we recognize a group here to make a presentation tonight on the resolution that should happen before you later. So it's my pleasure now to introduce Mr. Russ Ackey. It's Pet Works. And Russ, it's good to see you back up here and have you with us. I believe you have a PowerPoint we need to know.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, I do. And I brought with me a copy of our operating budget for this fiscal year. And I'll pass this. Joe, if you can pass that around for me. Sure. While they're setting that up, I want to introduce a couple of people. First of all, I'm Russ Atkins, and I do not work for the shelter. I'm a volunteer. I'm the newly elected board president as of July 1. I'm a lawyer during my day job, and I can promise you that law school taught me nothing about running an animal shelter. So our shelter director, Donna Davidson, if you raise your hand, is here with us. To my right is John Morris. You can raise your hand. I believe John has appeared before at least one of the committees at some point and may have created some confusion about his role. He is our board treasurer, and he is our numbers guy. He does work for the city of Kingsport. John Campbell is another of our board members, former city manager of Johnson City and Kingsport. And Debbie Wagner, who is our vice president of our board, has had to leave for another engagement. Rule number 1 is never bore the jury, so I'm going to try to scoot through this quickly and give you a quick tour of our adoption center. I'm not sure how to advance this. Someone here? Oh, thank you. You can see here that we have, this is our new adoption center on Stone Drive. We have a sign out front that helps us to advertise our pets that are available and our organization, all the events that we have coming up. You see we have a spacious parking lot. This really has enhanced our ability to provide good services. It has increased our visitors by 60% since we moved into the new facility. It has increased our adoption rate by 50% and our volunteer rate by 50%. Here you can see the upgrade in facilities. We have a high ceiling that makes reduces the odor. We have free supplies. We have a spacious area for people to check in and to check out. Here we have meet and greet rooms, which is a great place to come with your cat. There's also an area for dogs. These are our animal kennels. We have capacity, we'll talk about that in a few minutes, but we have capacity for around 90 dogs and I believe 150 cats right now. And we're almost at capacity. We have a lot of animals. Since the economy went south, we have been very, very busy. We have a community dog park behind our adoption center. This is the Friendship Apartment Park. And this is available for members of the community to bring your dogs out to run, and also for our shelter animals to interact with other animals from the community. This is our concrete dog run so that our animals can get exercise on rainy and snowy days. Here you see our animal food storage. This is a huge upgrade from what we used to have. It has rodent-free doors. It's clean, it's spacious. We had a problem in our old shelter with insects, rodents, and it was not a good scene. And here's our animal washing and grooming area on the left. We have a commercial grade laundry equipment there in the middle. And on the right you can see these animals use a lot of towels and sheets and pillows. And but a lot of people stay busy keeping all of that clean. We have quarantine areas for both the dogs and the cats. That's important because it helps us to reduce the spread of disease. This is our cat quarantine area. And this is something we're very proud of. It's our spay and neuter area. Debbie Wagner, who I mentioned, she and her husband Buddy were generous enough to sponsor this. We are currently doing vaccinations twice a month on Fridays, and we're hoping to expand that. We're providing services to our own animals, and we hope to expand that to members of the community who are unable to afford spay and neuter facilities through a partnership with the Sullivan County Humane Society. The animal control has a separate entrance. At our previous shelter, we might have someone bringing in a dog that's hard to control while someone else is trying to adopt a dog. And in a closed space, it was a little chaotic. So we have a separate entrance, an animal control lobby that's separate from our main lobby. And here you see our conference room on the left, the office space in the middle, and the break room, the storage room on the right for our file room, excuse me. Again, a huge upgrade over our previous facilities where our staff had to put down newspapers to eat lunch because of the rodent droppings. So our new facility has really been a significant improvement, and we are here to talk about what we're doing with that. So you have a copy of the budget in front of you, which we'll talk about more in a moment. We work on a fiscal year of July 1 through June 30. During our past fiscal year, our intake was 672 dogs and 921 cats. Our capacity is approximately 90 dogs and 150 cats at a time. So we have a busy, busy group of people who are busy caring for and rehoming these animals. And the question I would ask is, if we weren't doing this, where would they go? We're getting these animals off the streets and putting them into a temporary place where we can care for them until they have a new place to live. Adoptions, 442 dogs and 592 cats during the last fiscal year were spayed or neutered, vaccinated, microchipped, and returned right here to our community. 54 dogs and 61 cats were rescued. 40 dogs and 48 cats were sent to foster, again, right here in our community. And this does not happen by accident. I'm very proud of our staff. I'm very proud of our volunteers because they work very, very hard to find homes for these animals, to exercise these animals, to make them more adoptable, going to off-site adoption events, doing everything that they can, social media, and they have done a fantastic job. Euthanasia rate is down. We last year, 28 dogs out of the 672 that were brought in were euthanized because they were sick or aggressive. No adoptable dogs. 88 cats, sick or aggressive, mostly sick, out of the 921 taken in, had to be euthanized. That's a good number, but it's not good enough. And our staff is working with the veterinary clinic at A&D Straley Veterinary Hospital to try to improve our ability to care for those animals so that they do not get to that point of illness. Cats and kittens are very hard to take care of, but we're working on that. Our $584,000 annual operating expense is based on our current territory, which we would intend to keep. $300,000 of that comes from the city of Kingsport. And we do not rely solely on the taxpayers. And I want to talk a little bit about our fundraising. Last year we raised $55,400 from a furball fundraiser that was held at Meadowview by our volunteers and board. We had $79,500 in community donations toward operations because of solicitations and work from our board of volunteers. We had a number of smaller fundraising events that totaled $22,000. So our total fundraising last year was $156,900, and we had budgeted for more this year. With David Wagner on board, I have no doubts that we can do it. $179,000 is budgeted for this fiscal year. This page is because I thought you would all want to see puppies. I was in the shelter a few weeks ago and took this picture, and I want to leave you with a photograph of the puppies, and thank you for allowing us to be here and talk about what we are doing and how proud we are of our people who are doing it.
Thank you, Russ. Does anyone have any questions? If we can get my screen back up. Request to speak. have, Ms. Crosswhite, your recommendation.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for having us.
And several of us took a tour of the shelter. I would have taken them all home with me if I could. And Mark Iverson would like a few puppies, by the way. A couple of questions I have. Do you all actually spay and neuter, or are you doing a voucher?
We actually provide the spay and neuter to, right now it's to our own residents, to our facility. It's only to the animals who are in our care at this time.
Okay.
Our intent is to expand that to having vouchers through the our partnership with the Sullivan County Humane Society in the future.
Now, will you all follow up with these vouchers, or will they follow up to make sure this animal is being altered?
It would be provided in our facility, yes. It would be provided in our facility by, under our direction, so we would know that it's done.
Okay.
The vouchers, the way I understand it is that if it's a member of the community who has their own animal and they cannot afford to go to the veterinarian to have their dog spayed or neutered, then they can apply for assistance through the Sullivan County Humane Society, who will provide vouchers to help pay for the cost of that spay and neuter. They bring the animal to our facility and we provide it. Now, for animals who are inside our facility, we just bring them into the room to do it.
Okay.
I hope that answers your question.
Yes, it does. Thank you, sir. And how many full-time and part-time employees do you have?
Good question for Donna.
There's 5 full-time and 9 part-time.
5 full-time and 9 part-time.
Okay. And my only other question is, I noticed all the different brands of food. I'm going to a little 3-year-old birthday party, and she's requesting food for the shelter. Well, I know Sullivan County just uses Purina. Do you all just feed them anything, or are you sticking to one brand? And
We accept donations from the public, and we have been fortunate that we have not had to purchase any, very little dog food. Most all of it has been by community donation, and if it's an unopened bag, we'll take any brand.
okay. Well, thank you again. Thank you for coming, and keep doing good work.
Thank you. Thank you for your questions.
Thank you, Commissioner Harvey. You're recognized.
First, I want to thank you also for the work you're doing in the community. It definitely makes a difference as far as the safety of our citizens, as well as not having traffic accidents and other things that can happen when we have a lot of animals around. I did have an opportunity this week to visit all 3 facilities, both in Kingsport as well as the Sullivan County and Bristol, and I was able to speak with the directors in both of those facilities. And I needed to compare some things because my understanding from the resolution was that the part of this money or funding would be to have another animal control person that would actually take part of the county, part of Sullivan County. And I have concerns about that, but if somebody needs to speak, cut me off on that. But
My understanding, we did not ask for that territory, but one of the commissioners asked us at one of the previous meetings if we would be willing to take it on. We said that we would. My understanding is that the resolution has now been amended to remove that.
okay, so because when I spoke to the director, she didn't seem to have any idea of what was going to be asked to do, and the person in Sullivan County does not want to give up any part of Sullivan County because they feel like that was very confusing to people to know whether or not to call Sullivan County or Kingsport.
We did not ask for it, and we're very happy to continue as it is.
Okay, so that is...
We were only answering the question we were asked, would we be willing? And our answer is, if you ask us to, we will do it. But
Okay.
we are not asking for it.
So I guess I need some clarification on what the money then that's been changed is going to be used for.
It will be used for animal care. We would like to expand our testing for heartworm and other diseases when our animals come in. We'd like to be able to provide more veterinary care. There are a lot of animals, we're having to do GoFundMe pages for sick animals. we'd like to be able to provide more vaccines. It's for animal care. And my understanding is the resolution is now for $75,000. If we're not having to hire another animal control officer, then I think that's something that we could do and be able to enhance the quality of life for the animals in our care.
Yes, and as Sullivan County, I believe, and when I was looking at the numbers, I think they do maybe 3 times as much with the vets that they have. They have them coming in, and at least the numbers that they gave me in Kingsport versus Sullivan County.
I can't speak to their experience. I can tell you that our Dr. Gary Andes, who is with Andy Straley Veterinary Hospital, is on our board, and I know that in recent weeks, since our new board has taken over, we really are putting an emphasis on improving animal care, and their manager of their clinic has been coming in on a regular basis, and we're working on making improvements, which are always possible. There's never been a perfect shelter, and there never will be, but we're working on making ours the best we can make it.
Okay. Is there any way that you can identify exactly how much that cost would be if you brought another vet in? I understand it's at $400 for half a day.
That's a question for Donna.
$400 for a whole day.
$400 for a whole day.
That's interesting. Okay. I got a different figure, but that $400 for all day being 8 hours?
Yes.
So, again, I think I'd like to see exactly what you'd use the funds for, break that down a little bit more. That would be helpful.
What we use which funds for?
Is it $75,000?
We're happy to report back on every dollar of it.
Thank you. Commissioner Stidham, you're recognized.
On your desk, there's Amendment 1 for this resolution. There's a copy of it for the $75,000. It is on every desk. It should be underneath your agenda for tonight. But that takes out the animal control portion. Sullivan County wanted to retain their current boundaries, so we took it out and reduced it down to $75,000.
Commissioner Stidham, you had asked that we move that to the top of the resolution agenda, and I'll be happy to make that request of the commission when we get to the resolution agenda. Russ, thank you for being with us tonight, and we'll move as expeditiously as we can to our resolution agenda. We wanted you to make the presentation, and we'll discuss the commissioners have time to discuss the resolution in detail. The next item on our agenda are elections, confirmations, and appointments, and this is on our agenda every week, but as is traditional, every year we go through the exercise of electing leadership for the Sullivan County Commission and the committee assignments and the chairman pro tem. So at this time, I'm going to ask County Attorney Dan Street to take my seat and to conduct the election for County Commission. It's been an honor and a pleasure for me to serve the 242nd session of the Sullivan County Commission, and I appreciate the opportunity. So at this point in time, we will ask Dan to come. I will leave the room, and you all can deliberate on electing the chairman for this coming year. We do this traditionally every year, either in September or October. So thank you for the opportunity to serve. Mr. Street.
Thought I might just sit here a minute. See what it feels like. I have to figure out who my county attorney is. The floor, we're going to elect the chairman of the county commission. Only members of the county commission can nominate. Don't need a second. And once we reach the list of candidates, then we will proceed to the election. If we have more than 2 candidates, we'll talk about that when it occurs. So, floor is open for nominations for chairman of the county commission.
Nominate Richard Venable, Mayor Richard Venable.
Okay. Is there any other nominations? Commissioner Gardner.
I move nominations cease. Clerk call roll for the appointment of the chair.
Is there any opposition to that motion? Could I just ask all in favor of electing Richard Venable by acclamation, indicate by saying aye?
Aye.
Mayor Venable? Does anybody oppose? You invite Mayor Venable back in. Let me introduce to you your new chairman for the next year, Richard Venable.
Thank you. Please be seated. That's the first time that's happened in this chamber. Thank you so much, and Dan, thank you for holding the election. And it's from a personal standpoint, it's a mixed blessing for me. I love working with you. It is a challenge, and I'll do my best to conduct your meetings and not interfere with your meetings, but to give you an opportunity to debate the issues that come before this county and do it with decorum. And I'll try to conduct the orchestra the best I can. And I will say this, I will make mistakes. Fortunately, I have Dan and other members who know parliamentary procedure very well. So I will beg your forgiveness for any mistakes I might make. And I told Mr. Van over here today, there's nothing we can do here that can't generally be undone, and he said, and nobody's bleeding. So that's a good thing. So thank you for your vote of confidence, and I'll do my best to serve you properly. The next item we have on our agenda, or in our election, is to elect a chairman pro tem. And we have 2 people who have sought recognition. Commissioner Jones is first. I take them in the order they come. Commissioner Jones, you're recognized.
I'd like to put forth John Gardner for pro tem.
Mr. Jones would like to nominate Commissioner John Gardner for chairman pro tem. Do we have a second? Commissioner Crawford and Commissioner Calton. The floor is open for other nominations or motions. We have any further nominations? We have a motion that nomination cease. Commissioner Cole, Commissioner Stidham, Commissioner Crawford, Commissioner Harvey, second. I'm just going to take a voice vote since we only have one. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, no. Commissioner Gardner, congratulations on your election, and you're recognized.
I remember when Jeb Bush looked at everybody and said, please clap. I looked at everybody and said, please stand. I appreciate that very much, everybody. I'll do the best I can to serve you well. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Look forward to working with you this year, and I will probably ride you hard and put you up wet. The next item we have is probably the most difficult thing that as chairman and as mayor, one of the most difficult jobs I have, and that is to assign or suggest assignments to committees. Many of you sent in requests to Jackie D. and Mr. Bailey's office. I reviewed all those requests. You have before you, and I'll kind of cover the process. The county mayor nominates and asks for ratification of the budget committee. That is by statute. The budget committee is a requirement that each county have a budget committee, and the mayor is given the option of nominating that committee and ask for ratification from the county commission. So it's the mayor's job to do that. We have passed out a sheet, and you see my recommendations for budget committee on that sheet, and that's based on request. Obviously, I couldn't fulfill all requests because we had more than 8 requests to be on the committee. But you see the list for administrative executive. I've tried to give you the suggestion to do that, to make those appointments. There are 20 committees on this sheet with 24 people, and each commissioner generally has about 3 assignments. There may be 4 on there for some, and I think a couple that are 5 that are not full committees. So it's a very difficult process and to go through. And I will say that in the past, when the commission has ratified or changed and come out with a recommendation for committee assignments, the next month we will meet again and we will consider any request for reassignment. If you're on a committee you don't want to serve on, we will get you on that committee. If there is a committee you want to serve on that you're not on, if we're not statutorily limited on that committee, and that is if the law doesn't limit the number of people on that committee, I believe this commission will accommodate you on your request. But we have to have a starting place. I would ask that you consider this tonight and that you do vote on it, and we can make any adjustments that you request at our next meeting. Again, it's the only statutory limitations that that I know of right now are the budget committee is limited by statute. You will note that there are 8 members plus the mayor on the budget committee. Our private act calls for 7. But I have chosen, until overruled, we will have 8 to have equal distribution between our 3 standing committees. So with that explanation, I'll be happy to answer any questions. Commissioner Calk, I'm going to have to recognize folks in the order they're on the board. Commissioner Calk, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mayor. I was looking down on the audit committee. Do you mean to have Colette George?
No, that is an oversight. And I'm told we still have Trustee Ramsey listed. But Ms. George, let me just step in my office and I'll tell you who we replaced Colette with. I will say this is hot off the press and we've been working on it all afternoon. That should be, if you will line through that, that should be Commissioner Joe McMurray. And of course the trustee on the ethics committee will be replaced by statute with, I forget her name, Angela Taylor. So if If there are other corrections, thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner King?
That's what I was going.
Okay, very good. Commissioner Harvey, recognized.
Yes, my understanding, according to the Private Act, is that the Ethics Committee can have up to 6 people. Is that correct?
Copy, I don't know, I probably said that in the
What was it?
According to the Private Act, they can have up to 6 members on the Ethics Committee, and I wanted to ask if we could expand that to include 6 people.
Is that local rule, Dan?
I just have to go pull that and look at that, I don't know right off the top of my head. Wouldn't take me a minute to go grab it.
If you all will, let's get it right.
You're not talking about the budget committee, you're talking about the ethics committee. Let me go pull that real quick.
And Commissioner Harper, that's true, that was simplifying my job to get things spread out and get everybody represented as we should. While Dan's gone, I'll go get my worksheet and make sure. It doesn't make it right, but last year we had 5 also. And as you can see, there are different iterations of this, and I have many worksheets on this as we went through the process over the last week. And while Dan's gone, we'll go ahead and recognize other folks on the Commissioner Council. You're recognized.
Thank you, Mayor. On the Ethic Committee, you have Susan Ramsey as trustee. We need to change it.
Yeah,
Angela. Oh, I
yeah,
didn't hear that.
Yeah, if everyone would strike through the
Thank you.
Susan Ramsey and replace that with Angela Taylor. We will make that typographical correction. Let's see, we have Commissioner Horn, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mayor. Joe Carr and I talked, and we would like to switch from the building committee that I was on and the integrated emergency preparedness that he was on.
Mm-hmm.
Switch those two, if that's okay with you, and put him on the building and I on the integrated emergency.
Without objection, we'll do that. Okay. So we've, from the building committee, Daniel Horn will go to integrated emergency preparedness, and Joe Carr will go to building committee. Very good. And let's see, Dan, you're recognized.
The Ethics Committee, Section 5 says, a county ethics committee shall be established consisting of 7 members appointed to staggered 2-year terms, with 4 members appointed to a 1-year term and 3 members appointed to 2-year terms by the county mayor, with confirmation by the county legislative body, with appointments made annually. Thereafter, 4 members to a 2-year term and 3 members the next year for 2-year term, at the same time as internal committees of the county legislative body. So 7 members, 4 originally, 4 to a 1-year term and 3 to a 2-year term. At least 4 members of the committee shall be members of the county legislative body. 1 member shall be a constitutional officer. And the remaining members may be either a member of the Board of Commissioners or a member of the different types of entities controlled by this ethics policy.
So Dan, I think the best way to do that, because we don't know, because we're in the middle, we just had an election, we don't know who's served 4-year terms or 2-year terms or whatever. So let's pull that out of this suggestion and handle that next time, next meeting. And if you have a desire, we have, other than the people who are listed, we have 2 more commissioners who can serve on the ethics committee. And we'll make sure what slots have been filled. We'll have to go back to the original organization.
So we may just have to start all over.
Yeah. Starting all over might be the simplest way to do it. So we'll bring you a suggestion for the ethics committee next month. And again, if you'd like to be on it, let me know, because we have slots open. I will tell you, it's a challenging committee sometimes. So anyway, thank you, Commissioner Harvey, for
Thank you.
pointing that out. That's why Dan does a great job on his training sessions. So anyway, again, and we're not limited to tonight. If you want to use this as a starting point, I will. We'll go forward and then work it out. Mr. Gardner, you're recognized for what purpose?
I actually have two purposes, if it's
Okay,
okay. The first one actually was answered by Attorney Street, because I'm on the ethics committee. I was going to make a suggestion that we actually meet at 5:30 next month before the work session, or the full commission, for the purposes of appointing a chair, co-chair, and secretary. But if we're undecided on who's actually going to be on it, we can scrub that.
The answer says yes.
So, okay.
I'm sorry?
Yes, I see, that's the new term, to scrub it. That's an official term. Are we allowed to make recommendations to the Financial Management Committee in this particular forum?
John, I'm sorry, I didn't understand that.
Are we allowed to make recommendations, nominations for the Financial Management Committee at this particular juncture, or not?
We can, if that's the way this commission wants to handle it, and we can divide the question. If you'd like to pull that out, if you pull that committee out, we can divide the question.
Yeah,
if we have, but we first have to have a motion to adopt, and then a motion to divide the question.
Okay. So where are we in the process of that right now?
We have to have a motion to adopt.
Okay. Are there any other questions about the committees? Because I don't want to step out of order at this point, because you have other people on the board to be recognized. So I can roll mine to the hill.
No, I don't have other people on board. Commissioner Crosswhite is asked to be recognized. So
okay, I can go behind her.
Okay.
Thank you, Mayor.
Commissioner Crosswhite.
Thank you, Mayor. What I was going to do was to move to accept the committee nomination. So if you got something you need to do, John, before we close all but for the Financial Committee, just accept the recommendations that were given us.
John, I'm sorry, I didn't know you cut yourself off.
Thank you, Mayor. I was wanting to nominate 2 members to that committee. I was wanting to nominate Commissioners Stidham and Jones to that committee, if that request is in order.
We've had requests to change that was agreed upon by 2 members, and I think that's consistent with what we're trying to do here. Again, to deal with a individual committee on this suggestion that I've given you,
okay.
We would need a motion to adopt this, and then a motion to divide the question, and that would, to divide the question would be to carve out the Financial Management Committee, and then your motion would be proper, and,
Well, I'd like to offer that in the form of that motion, if I may.
if you'd like to call through.
I'd like to offer that to motion to adopt.
Subject to adoption.
Yes.
Then I'm gonna ask for your help on that.
Okay. As I understand it, what you're saying is it's presented as a group, and you have a motion on the floor to pull that one out, and that's a proper motion. It would need a second. The Financial Management Committee appointments, there's a motion to pull it out. Is that what we're trying to achieve?
I'd actually like to rework my motion, if I may. I think that's where we are. I move to withdraw my motion at this point for the purposes of adopting the committees. We'll get it squared away in a second.
Without objection, it's withdrawn. Okay, do we have a motion to adopt these suggestions? Now, I have a list here of people that want to speak on this, but if you're going to speak on Mr. Gardner's motion that he just withdrew, do you still want to speak, or you want to wait on the debate and divide the question? Wait on the debate. Commissioner Jones, if you will address your questions to the chair, and the chair
Okay.
will recognize
I'll be happy to. I think the same thing that Ms. Harvey pointed out. I believe in the law it says that the commission will nominate and elect the finance committee after the first year that it's created from your nominations. So it would be proper for someone to make a nomination from the floor for the finance committee for the law. And that's why I say Mr. Street could read that, and it'd be the same as what we did for chairman and pro tem.
Mr. Street, you want to help with this one?
Yes, I thought that's where we were a minute ago. Let me explain to you the way I see it. This list has been submitted to you. If you don't like it, you can pull any of it out, which is what Commissioner Gardner was attempting to do, but he's withdrawn it. Commissioner Jones is correct. Who sits on the Financial Management Committee is your decision. If you don't like who's on here, you can make a motion to pull it out. There's just a motion on the floor to approve this as a group. If you don't want to vote on it as a group, you make a motion to pull any one of them out and vote on them separately, and then you can make your nominations as to who you want to serve on that committee. Does that help any?
So Dan, and we do not have a motion to adopt. So at this point, it would be a proper motion to pull out anything here. So Commissioner Gardner's motion
Mayor.
was in order.
Yes, but he wouldn't do it.
Mayor, I apologize, sir, but I did make that motion that we accepted these committees.
Okay, if that's on the record, that's good.
Yes, sir.
Do we have a second to that motion? We have a second, Commissioner Akert. And so we will need to vote on that motion okay, don't need to vote on that motion. I need to recognize Commissioner Gardner. At this point in time, you have a motion on the floor. Commissioner Gardner wants to be recognized. I will recognize him again, and if he repeats his motion, it will be a proper motion. But the motion will be to divide the question.
That's correct. That's the motion I make to divide the question for the purpose of not making a nomination for financial
Okay,
management.
and do we have a second to divide the question? So second, Commissioner Cross, to divide the question, and that's to remove the Financial Management Committee from consideration of the original motion. That what you said, Dan?
Yes.
We'll do this
It
right.
needs its separate vote.
Right. Now, we vote on the original motion first?
No, the motion to divide.
First. Okay. Laura, can you put,
I was wanting to nominate Commissioner Jones, Commissioner Stitt.
Hang on a minute.
Okay.
We need to vote on whether or not we're
we
going
got
to
to
pull
vote
it
on
out.
dividing the question. The thing is, does the commission want to divide that question?
Okay.
And then
nominations.
you'll be recognized for
Okay.
that motion. Okay? Everybody right? Let's put this vote on the board. It's on the board now. Okay, all those in favor of the motion to divide the question and consider appointment of the Financial Management Committee, please cast your vote when the board opens. Has everyone voted? Anyone wish to change, anyone wish to, hold on now. Has everyone voted? Anyone wish to change their vote?
I'm not even sure what we're voting.
Well, we've got some other members. Let me explain to you, Commissioner Ward. We are voting to divide the question on the motion that Commissioner Crosswhite made a motion to adopt the list that you have in front of you, and it was properly seconded. I recognize Commissioner Gardner. He asked to divide the question on the motion and to carve out the election of the Financial Management Committee. And that's what we're voting on. The board's still open. We're voting on the ability to carve that out or vote on that Financial Commission, Management Commission as a part of the whole suggestion here. Okay, everyone voted? Anyone wish to change their vote? Madam Clerk, take the vote.
15.
The motion is adopted. Oh, I'm sorry. Can we not get through on that? We have too many mics open. There you go.
15 yes, 9 no.
Having received necessary votes, the motion is adopted. Okay. Floor is open. Mr. Gardner, you're still up, but I've got a group. This is on the last motion, so I've got to put you in line.
Okay. I'll go ahead and turn mine off.
I've got to put Commissioner Glover in line because we have a new issue before us.
Mayor, point of information. I believe we have to actually vote on the other part before we start talking about the Financial Management Committee, right? Because all we did was pull it out.
We are saying now we will have to have a motion to, for structure of the Financial Management Committee and the appointment of the non-statutory commissioners.
Yes, sir. But don't we vote for the other first before we do that?
Sorry?
Don't we vote for the other first? Don't we vote for all these other committees first? All we did was pull that out, right?
I'm going to ask Dan.
Wondering the same question, but I think it would probably, I think Commissioner Iverson is probably correct, that you would then proceed to adopt the list without the financial management and then come back to the financial management
That's exactly right, and I'm gonna clear the board. We'll clear the board, and the motion's on the floor. We're in discussion on adopting, the motion made by Commissioner Crosswhite. Can you put that up? The motion by Commissioner Crosswhite was to adopt.
Well, wait a minute.
Motion was to adopt the suggestions that you have with you tonight, and we have approved dividing the question, and you're, Commissioner Iverson, thank you. Motion to adopt committee assignments.
Where is that map?
Mayor, I have a question.
Okay, we have the right item up there. The motion is to adopt committee assignments with the exception of Financial Management Committee. Any discussion?
Yes.
Earl, I've got, you're recognized on the motion on the floor.
I'd like to carve out the Ethics Committee as well, please. Carve out the Ethics Committee as well.
I believe we can, without, I don't think we're in proper form to adopt the Ethics Committee, and I've already ruled on that we will correct that and pull it out next week, and do it next week. The Ethics Committee will be voted on separately next week. Commissioner Glover, you're recognized. Well, your discussion on the motion?
Yes, sir. If we vote on the committees the way they stand now, and that passes, underneath the private act, you can't serve on the Budget Committee and the Finance Committee at the same time. So, Commissioner Jones and Commissioner Stedham, if this is voted on and passed the way it is presented now, and then they are put on the Financial Management Committee, then we're gonna have to go back and redo the whole thing again. So underneath the private act, if Attorney Street wants to look, Commissioner Jones and Commissioner Stedham will either have to serve on the budget or they'll have to serve on the financial management, because they can't serve on both at the same time.
Okay. Thank you. Let me confer again with the county attorney. Dan, can you confirm that that is the private act of provision, or is that a local?
I haven't found it yet. I'm not saying it's not in there, but I've read this act 50 times, but I couldn't tell you where that is. But if they'll show me where it's at, otherwise I got to read this whole thing.
Then we should not go on until we confirm that.
Well, at this point in time, we're not dealing with a motion to elect members to the Financial Committee, so we don't know that there's a conflict. That hasn't happened yet.
And that's true if we do, and this is discussion on the motion, and I'm going to recognize everybody, and you can just need to try to keep calm if we can. Commissioner Harvey, I've already recognized you, and you asked a question about the Ethics Committee. Did you have additional comment on the motion to adopt the rules? Since we've handled the Ethics Committee, that's been handled separately. So you're satisfied with that? Okay, very good. Commissioner Stidham, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
I'm good. We are having some computer problems, and you're recognized. You're on.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to withdraw my name from the, for the Finance Committee. I'm already on budget. That will be fine. Withdraw my name from the Financial Committee nomination.
Without objection.
Mr. Chairman, I can't find that in the private act where it says that.
Thank you, Mr. Street. I do believe we go ahead and act on the motion on the floor, and we'll continue discussion. Commissioner Cross, you're recognized.
The only question I had, thank you, Mr. Chairman, was if we did continue on with this motion for these committees, and we did find in the private act later, I mean, would it be possible for two people to switch committees like was done in order to accommodate that at a later time?
I appreciate your point. I agree.
Thank you.
As I said when we started this meeting, there's not much that we can do that can't be undone if we do it wrong. So, the board, the motion, we have any further discussion on the motion on the floor? Probably one of the most difficult ones to have. Okay, it doesn't appear that anybody, when the board opened, cast your vote on the motion to adopt the committee assignments. Has everyone voted? Anyone wish to change their vote? Madam Clerk, take the vote.
24 yes.
The motion is adopted. Now, we're back in regular session without a motion on the floor. So the floor is open, and without a motion to move forward, and Commissioner Gardner, I'm going to advise you from the chair, now would be the time. We have divided the question. Now would be the time to make the motion for members of the Financial Management Committee. You wish to be recognized. You have got your button on. Commissioner Jones, you're recognized.
Before a nomination's made, I would withdraw that, my name from consideration. At this time, we elect it every year just like we do chairman and pro tem. I think we got a little bit out of order, but that committee, if you read that law right, that committee should be coming forth just like chairman and pro tem as a nomination on the floor for that committee. So this time, I'll withdraw, not be considered for that as we look into that legal issue on that. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. We do not have a nomination on the floor, and I would ask those who have sought recognition for what purpose? Commissioner Crosswhite, for what purpose?
Thank you, Chairman. I'd like to make the nomination that Mr. Crawford, Mr. Glover, and Mr. Vanover.
Madam
Can I
Chairman,
do that?
That's a proper motion.
Okay, that they remain on the Financial Committee.
That's a proper motion. We have a second. Commissioner Gardner, second. Do we have additional seconds that won't be recorded? Okay. Proper motion on the floor. You've heard the motion. Discussion. Seeing no discussion, can you put that on the board? Motion to appoint the Financial Management Committee. She is very good, by the way, extremely good. Okay, so you got the board. When the board opens, cast your vote on the motion as you understand. Everyone voted. Anyone wish to change their vote? Madam Clerk, take the vote.
24 yes.
Motion is adopted. Having received necessary majority, the motion is adopted. Okay, back on our regular calendar. Under elections, confirmations, and appointments, I will announce tonight that we have a nomination from the Intermont Utility District to appoint a board member, Mr. Andrew Brust. Has been nominated by the board of Intermont Utility District. Is there any objection to those who represent the Intermont Utility District to the appointment of Mr. Brust to that board? Without objection, he is hereby appointed as a member of the board of the district. We have another nomination from the board of directors of the South Fork Utilities Districts. The undersigned commissioners, South Fork, do hereby certify that vacancy exists, and the members of the board of commissioners hereby certify the nominations of the following qualified individuals for such vacancies being listed in order of preferences. 1, Diane Lochner. 2, Ronald Milhorn. 3, Joe Martin. You've heard the names that I am considering for appointment to the board of South Fork, and I would normally and do appoint without objection Diane Lochner, the #1 preference of that board. Is there any objection from folks who represent the area served by South Fork Utility District? Without objection, Ms. Lochner is appointed to the board of South Fork. That completes the elections and confirmations and appointments. We have the next item is approve the commission's minutes from July and August. Those have been spread on your desk and are available to you electronically. You weren't members here, but so I'm going to ask for a motion to adopt by Commissioner Akers, second by Commissioner Gardner, Commissioner Calton. Any discussion? No. Any discussion, corrections, additions? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. They're adopted. Next up, approval of notary publics. Madam Clerk, and for new members, Madam Clerk will read the list of notary publics. If you object and do not think one of the persons on the list that is read ought to be not considered in this group and considered separately, you may do so at the end of the list. So, Madam Clerk, would you read the list?
Austin Alexander, Amber A. Altizer, Elizabeth Bright, Brian William Brummett, Ella Kate Carpenter, Mauricia Carter, Jessica Faith Dowell, Bonnie Drew, Colton Fleener, Mildred Ann Fletcher, Seth Johnson, Allie Jones, Sandra L. Jones, Mandy Jo King, Terry Kasakovich, Jessica Lambert, Tristan Looney, Angela L. Marshall, Kay Carol Matheson, Andrew Otto Madukas, Lindsay Brooke Mutter, Deborah Lynn Myers, Kimberly Nall, Jeremy Prophet, Raiden Ramacus Purdue, Avery Logan Roden, D. Lee Robinette, William Joseph Robinette, Jonathan D. Russell, Melissa C. Sands, Christina M. Scars, Cherub Ruth Sargent, Whitney Beth Schuler, Jacob Stegall, Angela Taylor, Gregory A. Taylor, Sean Wasilowski, pardon me, Roy Daniel Way, Kristen Weiniger, Shauna Brooke Wright.
You've heard the list. Are there any objections?
Motion to approve.
Have a motion to approve Commissioner Cole, second by Commissioner Calton, Commissioner Slagle, Commissioner Akers. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, when the board opens, cast your vote on the motion. Has everyone voted? Anyone wish to change their vote? Madam Clerk, take the vote.
22 yes, 2 absent.
Have received the necessary majority, the list is approved. Commissioner Cross, would you check the table? We have two different sign-up sheets back there, Andrew. Okay, we have two people signed up. We will recess for public hearing and invite Amy Little. Ms. Little, if you will give us your name and address for our electronic record, and welcome.
Thank you. My name is Amy Little, 304 Honeysuckle Lane, Bristol. This is District 2. I came here today because I don't know if it'll be heard again, but I just heard about that pay to stay idea, and I think if we get past the fact that we would be asking folks whose rights we're still violating to pay for the privilege, you might ask who would be paying, because by and large it wouldn't be the folks who are staying. It's their families and loved ones, and I mean, working class families and frankly your most vulnerable constituents are the ones who would end up paying that. So, and frankly, they're tapped out between the indigent defense fees and booking fees and court reset fees and the $6 fees every time they want to put money on someone's commissary, the $6 or $3 and some change every time they for a 15-minute phone call, $7 for a 20-minute video visitation. It adds up to be a lot. And you know, Securus doesn't give those grants out of the goodness of their hearts. It's because they're making money, again, off your most vulnerable constituents, lots of money. So if I would invite the commission to, if you're looking at how to make a difference in that area, look at the data. There's been a lot of back and forth, but like the data says that it's not about how many state inmates have been in that jail hasn't been a factor in a long time. Our crime rates have the crime rate and incarceration rates diverged. It's not even about how much crime we have anymore, and I have ideas on that, but I know I have limited time. So, like, look at it. There's a lot of converging, compounding factors that are feeding into that problem, and building the jail is not gonna fix them. So the fact is, we're arresting people on low-level offenses that the law provides for citation and release on already. We're overcharging in prosecution a lot of times, and it's obviously not working as a deterrent. Our bail practices are not in line with the statutes laid out in Tennessee. You can look up what happened in Hamlin County, the federal lawsuit and injunction that they had. So, I mean, 70% of the people in there are still presumed innocent. And granted, I know, as the judge pointed out, that a lot of them are in there on violation of probation, but there was 1,000 people in there. I looked through half of them, and there were 84 that I'd identified that had money, that had a bond, and no detainers. So the only thing that's keeping them in jail right now is the fact that they don't have the financial resources to pay the bond. If they were a person with money, 84 people, and just half, half, so, you know, maybe double that, are just sitting in there because they're poor. That's it.
Thank you. You hit right on the right time. Mr. Paget. You know the drill.
Yep. My name's Rodney Paget. I live at 1125 Gotland Shoals Road. Unfortunately, got to speak after what I wanted to speak about. I don't have anything on the agenda, like we're talking about on the agenda, but I have a couple of requests now with this new commission. I would like for you guys to look into a few things. One would be, I think it would be good if the public could get an agenda that's at least 4 or 5 days ahead of time, that's posted online so that we can see what's being discussed here. I wish that you guys would make some sort of rule where things couldn't be brought after that 4 to 5 day period without a suspension of rules, not a waiver of rules, so there would have to be a higher vote majority. That way we could get rid of some of the last minute things that we've seen over the past few years. I would love to see committee minutes, budget committee, executive committee, administrative committee minutes be posted online. I was looking into an issue from 2015 that I wanted to see budget committee minutes on, and I asked for them last October, and they're not available that far back. So there's some things I would like to see this county do to help keep us informed as a public and let us know what you guys are doing. The next thing I want to speak about, which actually you guys just discussed, so it's a little after the fact, is this committee stuff. You know, welcome to the Financial Management Act. If you liked it, you just got a big taste of it. I'll read from it. It says the Financial Management Committee shall consist of 7 members as follows: County Mayor, Chief Administrative Officer of the County Highway Department, Director of Schools, Finance Director during the implementation period as a non-voting member except in case of a tie, and 3 other members of the commission elected by the county legislative body. After the completion of the implementation period, the mayor shall appoint an additional member from the county legislative body or a member of the school board approved by the legislative body to take a position previously filled by the finance director during implementation. I.e., it should have never been on your list to start with. You should have voted on the finance committee members before the list was even brought up to be approved. And then you wouldn't have to worry about who's on the budget committee or whatnot if that's in the Financial Management Act. The Financial Management Act has been nothing but chaos since it started. It started a year after it was supposed to. It resulted in chaos in the school system that wound up with a bunch of reports that got blown all out of proportion. And then you just got your first taste of it. So I would love to see it rescinded. Get rid of it. Since it's been in place, there was $300,000 taken out of the recreational use funding in school that was not really discussed up here in this body until December of the year that it was taken. There's $300,000 to $400,000 that's coming from the school budget going to the finance department to pay for county finance employees now. There's August of 2020, the month after the finance, well, no, I think that was the month it was actually passed. There was a vote in the previous commission to use $950,000 to renovate the old jail and the county courthouse to put a new finance department in there. June of 2021, they started the project. They were pulling steel bars out and stuff. It's supposed to be done by the end of the year, and then I haven't heard anything about it since. Financial Management Act was supposed to be about transparency, and I have seen very little of it. And you guys just got your first taste of it. I hope you enjoyed it. I wish you'd get rid of it. Thank you.
Okay, we don't have anybody else on our list. Anybody in the audience would like to address the commission tonight? I always extend that invitation. I'm going to ask our Chairman Pro Tem to step in for me just a minute. I've got to make an adjustment in one of these things in my ear, so I want to be able to hear what you say. And I usually don't comment from the chair, but I do remember a partial comment, to paraphrase Theodore Roosevelt, our president, about the man in the arena who toils and sweats and fights, unlike that person never willing to enter the arena, the cold, dead eyes that they have. So I will leave you with that, and my speaker pro tem will relieve me for, and that was really a paraphrase.
He just closed out public comment, so there was no one else that wished to come up for public comment. Okay. So the public comment portion of the agenda is closed. Takes us into our first order of business, item number 1. Yes, exactly. We have to adopt that first. Right. That's correct.
He's done it before, guys.
Item number 1 comes to us. Mr. Accountant and myself, and we can put that on the board for adopt item number 1. While we're doing that, Mrs. Torbick can come up. Already there. Mrs. Torbick will get ready to present the amendments. Keep that on the board. Yes, we have to adopt item 1 to enter into the amendments. So we have a motion by Commissioner Accountant and myself. When the board opens, cast your vote. Yes, please, Phil. Vote yes. Has every member voted? Any member wish to change their vote? Madam Clerk?
23 yes, 1 absent.
After receiving the necessary majority of the votes, item 1 is adopted. Mrs. Torbitt, you're recognized on Amendment 1.
Thank you so much. If you will pull your zoning packet, you should have had it emailed. Right, okay. Well, we're going through a little transition, but it should be easy tonight, I promised you all. We have 1 rezoning request to present tonight, and then 1 minor zoning text amendment. As the mayor said in the beginning of the meeting, the second case has been withdrawn by the applicant. So the first request is from Mr. Ricky and Cheryl Hurley. They own property on Highway 421. This went through the Bristol Regional Planning Commission because while it is in the county, it's in their urban growth boundary in their planning region. So in your packet, you have the staff report from Heather Moore, who's the city planner. She does a really good job, a very comprehensive analysis of all the rezonings in their area. And I will just highlight for you what she has written. The request is to rezone the property from R1, which is single family residential, to A5, which is a relatively new zoning classification approved by the County Commission a couple of years ago. The A5, the basics of that is it's a minimum of a 5-acre tract, which this is over 20 acres. And therefore it couldn't be re-subdivided into smaller lots. As you can see, this tract of land, if you're familiar, it's near the Christian Medical Dental Complex, that campus. There's a broader view, thank you. And it backs up to another subdivision. But it is highway frontage. Mr. and Mrs. Hurley recently built their new home there. And because they have so much land, they wanted to build a multi-purpose building for their toys, basically, as we Americans have lots of toys. So that's really it. And but in your packet, Ms. Moore did a thorough analysis of how this fits in with the land use plan. And the Planning Commission of Bristol sends a favorable recommendation to you all for this individual rezoning request.
You've heard the explanation. Any questions from Mrs. Torbitt? Is there anyone here from the public that wishes to make a comment on this particular amendment?
Mr. Hurley's here, but he doesn't want to address. Yeah,
Does
if there's
anyone
any
have any questions
questions.
for Mr. or Mrs. Hurley? You're more than welcome. Come up, sir, if you wish.
Anyone has any questions? I'm here. Other than that, it's pretty much as simple as Ms. Torvald explained it.
Without any objection, move adoption of amendment number 1. We can put that on the board. We'll vote. Has every member voted on amendment number 1? Any member wish to change their vote? Madam Clerk?
23 yes, 1 absent.
After receiving the necessary majority of the votes cast, amendment number 1 is adopted without objection. Amendment number 2 was withdrawn, correct?
Yes.
Without objection, recognize Mrs. Corbett on amendment number 3.
Okay. If you pull towards the back of your packet, we have a minor text amendment to present to you all. And if you recall, anytime we make an amendment to the Sullivan County zoning code itself, the book, the regulations, it typically comes consideration by the Sullivan County Regional Planning Commission. Once they iron out any of the kinks and make a motion to approve it and forward it on, then I send it to the Bristol and Kingsport Planning Commission as well. So this minor amendment went to all 3 regional planning commissions. They all 3 unanimously recommend in favor of it, and so now it's on your desk. In each section of the zoning code, you have the residential, commercial, and manufacturing chapters. And so we have put together what the existing language is and what the proposed language is. The purpose of this is actually quite simple. For those of you who know or don't know, in Sullivan County, we don't issue permits for fences. It's just anyone can build a fence on their property. If they do call us, we give them some guidance on, to offset it from the county right-of-way, inset it on their property unless they have an agreement with their neighbors and so forth. But we don't issue permits or do inspections on fences unless it's part of a commercial site plan and it's required. So in that regard, they are permitted and they don't require a building permit. Where it gets tricky is if they are building a retaining wall. And so we wanted to pull that out of the zoning code because retaining walls could be structural, they could be load-bearing, they could have a, something that is required for the development of the site. In that case, it's regulated by the building code. And so from time to time, we'll have a few conflicts of the zoning ordinance with the building code. And keep in mind, zoning was adopted in 1988. Building codes were adopted in 2010. So as things get applied in the field on a practical basis, we may find an issue where we have conflict. So all we're doing is what's highlighted in yellow is what our building official has helped us clarify. We just want to make sure that each section, whether it's an agricultural or residential, commercial, or manufacturing, that it will remain privacy walls or fences that are not retaining walls are permitted as is with those stipulations, and the retaining walls will be reviewed by the building official if they need to be engineered or permitted or if they're just for landscaping. Does that make sense? So that's all that's about. Seems complicated, but it's not. But we just want to make sure it's clear. And he did a nice, I asked him to do a kind of a bulletin, and we had this up in our lobby, so that might help explain to you when a permit is required for a retaining wall and when it's not. So.
You've heard the explanation on amendment number 3. Any questions for Mrs. Corbett on amendment number 3? Recognize you, Commissioner Vanover. All right.
Will this apply to residential and commercial?
Right, so we put those paragraphs, they're the same, but they have to be applied throughout residential chapter, which is Article 3, commercial chapter, which is Article 4, and manufacturing, which is Article 5.
Just,
Yes, sir.
just curious. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Commissioner. Anyone else have any questions for Mrs. Torbett on amendment number 3? Without objection, we're ready to vote on amendment number 3. Amendment number 3 on, but please cast your vote. Has every member voted? Any member wish to change their vote? Madam Clerk?
23 yes, 1 absent.
After receiving the necessary majority of the votes cast, amendment number 3 is adopted. Do you have any other?
I do. Can I told the mayor, but I would like to make a little quick announcement and invitation, actually. I know you all, your calendars are getting full. But next Thursday, I would like to invite you all to the Sullivan East Middle School. We're finally back and doing our annual Over Mountain Heritage Day programming with the students, but something special that will take place after their little field trip that we have on site. We will be dedicating a sign on the Over Mountain Trail on their campus. We've already installed the sign. School department installed it for me. I would like to invite you all. It's very special. For those of you who don't know, the Over Mountain Victory Trail is part of the National Park Service Trail. It goes through the heart of Sullivan County, and we have made some headway in getting some trailheads already on the ground. People are enjoying it. This will be the beginning of the Patriots Trail, because the Over Mountain men were patriots, and alongside George Washington's army, but also Sullivan East High School and Middle School are patriots. So imagine that. Anyway, if you have time, I know y'all are busy, but I would love to invite you to the sign dedication next Thursday at 11 o'clock in the morning. So maybe take a little early lunch break. Join us on the back side of the ball field, which is the trailhead to the park, by the flagpole. So it's not the flagpole in front of the school, it's the one by the ball field. Please join us. We'll be with the National Park Service Rangers, the Over Mountain men, the reenactors, and of course the students and faculty. So hope to see you there. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Torbett.
You're welcome. That's all.
Before you leave, if I may,
Go ahead, sir.
You brought it up, and probably several of us have got questions in the past. Is there a regulation, unless it's within a subdivision ordinances, is there a regulation on setback of a fence from the actual property line? Because I get people say, oh, it's 6 inches, it's an inch, it's a foot.
There is no zoning regulation. There's no regulation adopted by county commission or planning commission. If someone calls our office, the only thing that is in the regulation is the height. So the maximum height of a privacy fence is 8 feet. If anything is over that, they can take it to the Board of Zoning Appeals, but there are no setbacks, other than we always encourage people to make sure they know exactly where their property lines are, and to work it out with their neighbors. We help them if they're not sure where the right-of-way is at the county road. It can't be in the county right-of-way. So there are conversations, but we're not going to issue a permit or regulate it other than the height.
Does that also pertain to foliage?
No.
There's nothing in the regulations about trees being used as borders or hedges or?
No.
Okay. Thank
If there's
you.
an issue, it's a private civil matter.
Okay. Thank you.
Amber,
Yes.
what about storage buildings?
Storage buildings are regulated.
And how far do they need to
Yes,
go?
we have setbacks in residential. They're 8 feet off the line.
8 feet?
Yes, ma'am. In the side or in the rear behind the house, anywhere behind the house, 8 feet. If you put it in the side of your house, it's the same as your house setback.
so it depends on what you're zoned. 10 to 12 feet. Yeah, sure.
Thank you, Mrs. Torbett. That completes our planning and zoning agenda. Come out of recess for the purpose of going into our regular calendar. But before we go into old business, we're going to take a 10-minute recess and invite you to take a 10-minute recess, be back in your seats by 25 after 8.
Thank you. Get the sponsor of our next resolution in his seat, we'll get started. So I appreciate Commissioner Gardner filling in for me then. Had a little equipment malfunction. I've got the headphones like Larry has, but I paid $10,000 for these and I'm going to use them. Okay, we're ready to go again. So next up on the agenda is find it here. I don't believe we did have a consent agenda from our work session. So resolutions agenda is what we're on the regular calendar. Commissioner King, you're recognized on item 2 on our regular calendar.
Thank you, Mayor. There's some different things that have been going on with this resolution. There's been some new information that I've just found out about. So with that said, I'm going to pull it from the agenda right now. At some point in time, it'll probably come back. But as of right now, I'll just pull it and then until we get everything worked out.
Thank you, Commissioner King. Without objection, Commissioner King is pulling item number 2 from the calendar. Without objection. Next up, I know Commissioner Stidham had to leave. He had a part of his day job obligation, and we try to respect that. One of the co-sponsors going to handle, Hunter, you're handling this for her. Thank you. You're recognized.
Thank you, Chair. This item's for PetWorks to be funded at $75,000. Board of County Commissioners, Sullivan County, Tennessee assembles in regular session hereby approve funding for PetWorks Animal Service in the amount of $75,000. This amount is funded from the general fund balance or any available funding. You heard their explanation, their presentation. Call for question.
Okay, Commissioner Lott moves for the adoption of item number 3, seconded by Gardner, Pierce, and 2 former members. So you've heard the explanation. We've had full discussion on this. Commissioner Harvey, you're recognized.
I would still like to have a little more information about specifically what that $75,000 is going to be going toward.
Okay, additional information being what? Hunter, you're recognized.
I mean, it was changed from 160,000 to.
The reason it was changed from 160 is they're not putting animal control person or a vehicle on the road. So I guess if this resolution is passed, once it's allocated, I think Russ said that he would report back to us what the funds dollar for dollar is spent for, and there's where we are right now.
Did you want to hear from somebody else from the audience, Shirley? Or does that answer your question?
Yeah, I feel like I need more information. I don't know what it's going to be used for.
We've had presentation, so I would, if you're not, and what I would advise every commissioner, if you're not comfortable, if you're not comfortable with it, the amendment has been filed with the clerk properly. The sponsor accepted the amendment. It was his amendment. So, any further discussion? Seeing none, I believe you're ready to vote on item number 3 as amended. When the board open, cast your vote on item number 3. Has everyone voted? Anyone wish to change your vote? Madam Clerk, take the vote.
14 yes, 1 abstain, 8 no, 1 absent.
Item number 3, having received the necessary majority, is adopted. Next up, item number 4, Mr. Calton, you're recognized on item number 4.
Okay, this is you got me? Okay. Thank you, Mayor. At this time, I'm going to ask Amber Torbett to come to the podium. She's going to explain it.
Sure. We'll recess to hear, briefly to hear Amber's explanation of this.
Okay, thank you. So this resolution is to authorize me as your planning director to approve more than 2 lots. So when someone wants to subdivide their land, currently under state law, if the planning commission so designates, the planning director can approve administratively no more than 2 lots at a time. So long as there's no infrastructure required, like new roads. So I have been doing that per planning commission and state law for many, many years. The reason being is taking those minor subdivisions to the planning commission every month, it delays the landowner the ability, it just streamlines it. The state law was amended this summer, became effective July 1st, I believe, to allow local governments who have their own full-time planner to be able to approve lots up to 5 lots. So long as it's on an existing county road, and again, that there's no new infrastructure. So I'm asking for your approval and confirmation. Normally, anything that has to do with subdivision regulations does not come before you all, only zoning. But in this case, the state legislature wanted that extra oversight because, I work for the mayor. It's an extra assignment on me. That's the way it's been explained. So this does come to you favorably from the Sullivan County Planning Commission. They have authorized me up to 5, subject to your confirmation. And then we will have a final public hearing on the amendment to the subdivision regulations next Tuesday, if you all approve it. So that's the way that works. Keep in mind though, when I review a survey, subdivision plat, it's going to be reviewed by the highway department, 911 addressing, the state environmental office for any septic systems, the utility department, before I will sign it. I'm the last to sign it before it can be recorded. The state law also affords the planning director to approve up to 25 lots in a multi-phase development if the subdivision and the construction plans have already been approved by the planning commission. I am not asking for that delegation because I don't want to take away from the public participation of new subdivisions where we're building new infrastructure. Secondly, anytime there is a multi-phase or new construction subdivision, our planning commission requires a maintenance bond, and I can't approve maintenance bonds. Only the planning commission can approve maintenance bonds for that infrastructure. So while some communities are going to allow their planners to approve up to 25 lots, I'm not asking for that. I would just like to keep things moving efficiently for our public so they don't have to wait a month to be heard by, at the formal public meeting. And this is in keeping with the state law as it's been updated. So that's all.
Any questions for Amber while she's up? Mr. King, you're recognized.
Amber, what is the minimum width of these roads, or these lots on a county road? What's the minimum on the front?
Yeah, so that depends on the zoning district that they're in. Typically, it's 80 feet wide for a new buildable lot. Now, that's not the road frontage, that's just the width of
Width.
the buildable lot.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, if I'm developing those 5 lots, do I have to do an engineer, do I have to have an engineer to do all the engineering on it, if there is any, or?
So it could be, that's a loaded question. So the state law requires, and this is based on the EPA, if there is a potential of grading over an acre, or it is part of a larger development plan. So in theory, if you had 5 lots, or more than 5 lots, collectively, they're gonna be grading over an acre with all those new driveways. And the state would require an engineered plan for stormwater management. In that case, I will not approve them administratively because I can't. That has to go to the Planning Commission. In addition, the United States Postal Service enacted a regulation in 2016 that 7 or more lots requires a common mailbox receptacle, even on local county roads. So if you have a farm that you want to subdivide, whether they're ½ acre, 2 acre, and you're going to do 7 or more lots, you're not going to get individual mailboxes anymore. You will have to put in a common mailbox like you would see in an apartment complex. So that's been a fight. I even went to Congressman Rowe to get that changed. All the planners across the state were notified after the fact. But I guess for safety of our postal carriers, and I understand that. So in that regard, that would have to be designed, and to be honest, more and more, when you have so many lots on an existing county road, it's going to take some coordination on stormwater runoff with the highway department and see if we can actually handle all those new driveways. I feel comfortable approving 5 lots, but now I don't have to. If I feel that there's an issue based on, what the highway department tells me, or given the lay of the land, we can take it to Planning Commission. It just gives me, right now I can only approve 2 lots.
Where would the central mailbox be located, or who tells the developer where to put that, or on whose land would that be? Would that be on existing lot? Would that be on land that he'd have to provide, or he or she?
Yes, it would have to be offset to postal carrier standards. There's a whole guidebook, and I send it on to the landowner, the developer, and the engineer. Most of them know it now. But
So if he puts it on a lot that he designates, then he takes care of it from now on?
The homeowners, because it has to be offset on private property. In developments, it's worked out because they will have a pull-off area. It might be at the end of a cul-de-sac, so it's safe. And we've already approved several of these. So, and all our new developments are that way. Yep.
Thank you. Any other questions for Amber? Seeing none, I believe the sponsor renews her motion for the immediate introduction and adoption.
And I'm asking for waiver of rules.
To waive the rules for the immediate introduction and adoption of item number 4. Properly seconded. When the board opens, cast your vote on item number 4. Requires 16 votes for passage. Everyone voted? Anyone wish to change your vote? Madam Clerk, take the vote.
23 yes, 1 absent.
Item number 4, having received the necessary majority, is adopted. Item number 5, this is under new business. Commissioner Jones, you're recognized on item number 5.
Yes, we were informed about this in work session last week, and this is to approve the change for the Sullivan County employee share of premium participation in the state insurance plan for the 2023 calendar year. The amount is, I'm not reading that whole resolution, but the amount is down at the bottom. This is something the county commission has to approve, so I move for approval. Waiver rules as requested. This needs to get in the payroll.
Commissioner Johnson moves to waive the rule for immediate introduction and adoption of item number 5, properly seconded by Commissioners Carlson, Crosswhite, and Vano.
And I would ask anybody that votes in affirmative be added to this.
All those voting in the affirmative without objection will be shown as sponsors, co-sponsors. Commissioner Crawford, you have a question?
Sam, is this figures that we have here, or is this the actual monthly premium that they will be paying?
No,
this is in addition to?
I think if you read through the resolution, it answers that question. You could ask Mr. Bailey if you have a question. If you look on the back, the attachment, have you looked at that? The attachment, it'll show you what the actual premium is. Those are just the increases.
Increased, okay.
Yes.
That's what I need. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Bailey, you want to speak to that?
I can. Look, like Sam says, on the attached sheet, that shows what it was for the year ending December 31st, and what it's going to for January 1 for the next calendar year. You can see those are, it's never fun to pay for insurance, but we do have increases. The county's picking up. Of course, the county, if you look below that, the county's picking up the majority of what the increase is by far. And those were the increases the state passed on to us.
Okay, further questions for the sponsor or Mr. Bailey? Seeing none, I believe we're ready to vote. Mr. Jones renews his motion for immediate introduction and adoption of item number 5, properly seconded. When the board opens, cast your vote. Requires 16 votes for passage. Everyone voted? Anyone wish to change your vote? Madam Clerk, take the vote.
19 yes, 1 no, 3 absent.
Have received necessary majority. Item number 5 is adopted. Is there a question on the vote?
No, it was flashing.
Oh, is it flashing? Well, my clock in there says 20 minutes after 4, so we've had some lightning storms or something tonight to get our computer system. Thank you, Darlene. Okay, under new business, item number 6, Commissioner Carlson, you're recognized on item number 6.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm going to put this on first reading.
First reading, without objection. We'll discuss it. Committee meetings and work sessions. Next up, item number 7, Commissioner Cole, you're recognized on item number 7.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is the 2022-2023 Highway Safety Grant. It's for $60,000, no matching funds, no new money. I would ask for a waiver of rules. And in the absence of Commissioner Cross, I need to add Commissioner Tony Leonard to that co-sponsor.
You gonna waive the rule?
Yes.
Commissioner Cole moves to waive the rule for immediate introduction and adoption, second by Commissioner Cross. You've heard the explanation. Any questions for the sponsor? Requires 16 votes for passage. When the board opens, cast your vote. Has everyone voted? Anyone wish to change your vote? Madam Clerk, take vote.
22 yes, 2 absent.
I've received necessary majority. Item number 7 is adopted. completes our resolution agenda. We have a different result on the screen and on paper, so we're going to vote on item number.
No, not revote, I just need to re-announce it.
You're recognized. You're recognized. And the item number.
Okay, the item number is number 5. The correct vote is, for item number 5, 21 yes, 1 no, 2 absent.
And item number 5, and then the 6 and 7 are good. Okay, that completes our resolution agenda. I've got a couple of announcements I need to make. Commissioner Jones reminded me that our friend Charlie Curtis with TCCA, your organization, Tennessee County Commissioners Organization, will be meeting at the Ramsey Center next Thursday, the 22nd, Sam, at 5:30.
5:30, dinner at 6. There's no
Dinner at
cost.
6.
Bring your spouse if you want to.
Thank you for mentioning that. Charlie does an outstanding job of representing you all in Nashville. So if you can work that into your schedule, please come out to support Charlie. Bring your spouse or special guest or whatever they do. They have a great meeting.
And if we could get a head count, if you could send me a message or call me, or I guess the mayor's office, sometime before Wednesday, we need to get that head count to tell cattlemen are cooking it. They need to know how many to have. Probably
That's good.
by Monday, if you
So
can get it for us.
get Sam a head count if you can. If you're gonna come, let him know or let me know. And fellas, if you have any extra that you cook, I'd be happy to help you with it. Okay, Mr. Bailey?
But this is an 8-county area, so it's another good opportunity to meet fellow commissioners, highway commissioners, and county mayors are all invited. So
Let's have a good show up for Sullivan County. Mr. Bailey, you have anything tonight? You're good. Anybody have anything for the good of the commission? Got Commissioner Glover, Commissioner Jones, and push a button if you'd like to be recognized. Commissioner Glover, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The earlier resolution that, when we were talking about the pet works and we was talking about providing coverage for the lower part of the county, at the last meeting when we discussed that, I got to thinking about something, and I wanted to bring the rest of the commissioners aware of this. Sullivan County Highway Department picks up on the average of 120 animals per month. Average. Dogs, cats, deer, farm animals, etc. That's 2 men, $30 per hour for service per month. About $4,000 a month for animals.
Very good.
And the only difference between these animals and the other animals, these are dead and the other ones are alive, of course. But I just want to bring that to people's attention in here of what the highway department deals with, especially this time of year. This past week, they've been about 2 deer a day. A lot of these deer are not in the road, a lot of them are along the road, but they do this. This is not part of their job description. So the next time that we get to discussing, picking up animals, that's what the highway department does for Sullivan County. 120 animals per month average. So I just want to share that.
That's good information. We always wonder how those animals disappear. And State Representative Tim Burchett, who is now Congressman Burchett, passed a law that you can harvest those deer if you can get there soon enough. But most people don't. They got over it. Okay, Commissioner Jones?
Your secretary needs a count for registration purposes of who's going to Murfreesboro. She told me before the meeting she needed that head count. If you're planning on going to Murfreesboro to our fall conference, CTASC and their county commissioners. She needs a head count on that.
And the Governor's Economic Development Conference is next week also.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, thanks, Sam. Commissioner Iverson, you're recognized.
Yes, sir. Just the question I have is on the committees that we actually formed tonight. Since there are no chair and we have to do that at our first meeting, when will that actually happen?
Yeah, I was going to. I'm glad you mentioned it. I could have very easily forgot it. What we between now and next meeting. First of all, within the next week, please call me if you want a different committee. Just talked to Commissioner Crawford a minute ago, and he wanted a different committee assignment. There's no statutory requirement. We're going to do that. So call me and let me know. But once we get those committees finally settled, I would ask the committees to meet Tuesday before work session to organize. Having appointed the budget committee, I will ask one of our members to be chairman. But I'd like for the executive and administrative to organize, elect your chairman, elect your vice chairman, elect your rules, or select your rules. If you want to make a rule that you're not going to consider a resolution if the sponsor isn't there or the co-sponsor isn't there, you can do that. It's your committee, and you ought to run it the way you want. And that is traditionally how, this last group wanted to meet the same night, executive and administrative, and they overlap. One of them started at 5, one of them started at 6. So I would suggest that administrative meet at 5 o'clock for organizational purposes, and if we have resolutions, we will have them to you. And then the executive committee meet at 6 o'clock and get organized, elect your leadership, and do any resolutions, and the budget committee will meet sometime after that. So, Mark, thank you for mentioning that. I did want to cover that tonight. So, Mr. Osborne is back here in the back tonight, sitting with former Commissioner Vance, and Mr. Osborne will be notifying members of the committees about what I've said tonight and following up with you. And I would encourage you, John, I don't know if we have your phone yet, but or an email address. He will contact you at your email address that you've given us, tell you how to get to him, and he'll be prepared to help you and to hopefully share some information with you between now and when your committee meets. So I think we're ready to get started. We've got a good run to start tonight. I'm just happy we didn't have a calendar with 22 resolutions on it. And that's something that we will want to consider. There's 2 questions I want the county commission to be thinking about. Number 1, planning and zoning was a piece of cake tonight. Planning and zoning isn't always a piece of cake. They'll take you to 9 o'clock easily. And I've spoke with Amber. I've talked with a lot of the former committee chairs and the officers, and there's been a suggestion made that we have planning and zoning formally on work session night, which is the second Thursday of each month. And that means that we'll take whatever time, and then you can devote whatever time you want to devote to work session. If you want to take 30 minutes to explain a resolution, you can, or if you want to take 5, you can. But you can determine how late you go that night. So I want you to consider that number 1. And if you can let me know, just tell me, yeah, you like that, or no, you don't like that. The other is an issue that the county attorney and I have talked about for years. I mentioned tonight we had items on first reading, second reading. Those second reading items had to be, you had to waive the rule or suspend the rule. Think about whether we really need to do that, and if we can consider a resolution that's been through both committees, been through work session, if we can consider that on first reading and not have to have 16 votes. That will expedite your work considerably if we do that. I would also like for you to consider, and I'll put these in writing to you through John, limiting the number of resolutions that you might handle in a night. Lots of you guys got ladies have day jobs, and it's difficult to be here at 11:30 at night and get up and be at work at 7 o'clock in the morning. So we will get those suggestions to you. You give us your opinion on them. If they're worth considering and bringing to the commission for a vote, we will have a vote on them. We'll vote on all those things. There's always been a question of whether we meet during the day. This last commission voted to meet during the evening. And I will say our audience is increased by having these evening meetings. We have more people with us. But the great thing about meeting in the morning is you come here fresh at 9 o'clock and you've told your employer that, you know, I need this time off. When you ran for election, you said, "Well, the county commission." So again, that's something I'll ask you all to consider sometime in the future. Okay, I got a couple of people want to be recognized, and I'll recognize you, and then we'll adjourn. Commissioner Ward, you're recognized. You got your knees on the desk, Travis?
Barely. I've got one bent and one sticking out the backside of my chair.
We're gonna put that thing on stilts.
Well, I'm bringing some 2x4s next
Okay.
week. Questions for Dan, for the county attorney. Don't have to answer tonight, just like to have a reply, some type of answer. I've read a little bit about the Financial Act, and the way I read it, there was a line in there that said, when the school is selling a school building, that the commission has the final say in that. Did I read that right? And what I'm referring to is Colonial Heights Middle School.
It does say that. That language is a little bit confusing, but I advise the school board that it appears that that's what it says. And it's my understanding that they are going to, once they approve the sale, as I recall, I don't know, I've done a lot here in the last couple of weeks, but I was thinking that they said they were going to send it over here for approval once. I may be wrong on that. You may ask Mr. Iverson, he may know the answer to that, but I believe I recall seeing where that's in their plan is once they decide who accepted the bid, that they would send it over here for final approval.
Okay. Sounds good.
Commissioner Ward, you quoted the act exactly, what it says, and it is, as Dan said, it can be subject to interpretation. I'm glad you mentioned that.
My life has been on me about reading, so I'm trying to do a better job of studying before I come to read.
So
Thank you.
it is.
Thank you, and I'm glad you brought it up, Travis, because this private act is new. We've worked with it for a year. I see the need to appoint an ad hoc committee to go through that private act, because I know there are contradictions in there. One paragraph contradicts the next one. And it was pieced together with help from the comptroller's office. So before the next meeting, I'll appoint a small 3-person committee to make recommendations to the commission to recommend that our legislative delegation make changes and corrections as we go. It needs to be done. And it's a living document, and we're going to we can ask to change it every year. And I would invite the school department to talk with you about changes that they might like to have. And they will all be brought to this commission for consideration. I have taken you past 9 o'clock. I did not mean to.
I'm hurrying.
Mr. Calton.
I'm hurrying. Okay, Beverage Board, we do need to meet October the 12th. We have a new application. Is it okay with the ones that's on the committee that we can meet, and then we can vote for chairman and vice chairman? So the ones on it, we will be having a meeting in this room at 5:30, October the 12th.
Okay, and John will help you with that. I see him back there making a note now. Mr. Osborne will help you with
They said some would be in Nashville, but hopefully we can get a quorum, which I need 4. So, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Dan?
Just to note, Mr. Chairman, if we did want to make changes to the Financial Management Act, we would need to probably have that to the state legislature by January. Would you not agree? You may know more about that than me.
They're on a bill filing date, I believe, of February 25th, but they like to file bills early, and you're right, we need to do them as soon as possible. Dan made a point in the conversation, Dan, it don't require 16 votes to take any act to our General Assembly members, because they require that you approve any changes with 16 votes. That's their requirement. But that's their requirement. They want to make sure you really mean it. Anyway, I believe the board's clear. Have a motion to adjourn. Mr. Aker, all those in favor say aye. All those opposed, no. We're adjourned.